Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Can you all hear me? I had to switch sound a moment ago. So thanks for coming. So this is going to be an interesting session because we have people who are here for multiple reasons. And so we're going to start with some introductions and quick announcements, and then we're going to determine who's here for what. And some of us will go off into a breakout room, and some of us will stay here, depending on what you are here to gain from the session. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chuck Cox, and I am, for 19 more days, the faculty director of Complex Problems and University College. And I'm joined by several members of the team who help keep both of those two programs running. And I will let them introduce themselves, starting with Adam Tamashasky, who is going to, well, I'll let him tell you the exciting news.
Hi, I guess I have 19 more days of a kind of freedom by that math. So yeah, I'll be taking over as faculty director of complex programs following Chuck's great lead. So I'm here to just sort of get my face out in front of you and begin transition into it. So it's great to see you all and begin to meet you all.
Great. So Richard,
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Richard Duncan. I'm the program manager for both Complex Problems and University College. So I'm more the logistics and operations side of both programs. Becca?
Hi, everyone. I'm Becca Comfort. I am the program coordinator of Complex Problems and University College. So I help with scheduling of classes, program leader management, and assessment, kind of everything in between. Diane?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diane Palmer, and I am a program assistant. My focus is primarily assessment and then support for the proposal process and program leader aspect of complex problems.
Great. So thank you for that. So these are the folks who are going to be helping us today, but also for those of you who are part of the program, I'm hoping these are not new names and faces. And for those of you who hopefully will be joining us, these are the people who will be helping behind the scenes and sometimes up front. So what we're doing here today, as you know from the title, is we called it creating a complex problems course. I forget. We made a very generic kind of title because we figured that there are people with lots of different interests depending on your relationship to the program. So for some of you, you may be curious about what this is and interested in potentially proposing a seminar. For some of you, you may already have an idea or a draft begun and you want to get some advice on it. For some of you, you may already be in the program, either because you have had a proposal recently approved and are now ready to flesh it out into a course. And others of you might be existing faculty members who just want to, jazz things up a bit. We hit our 3-year mark this semester, and we asked folks who were in the program to renew their courses. And so it seems like an opportune time to refresh things. So regardless of which of those areas you're here for, we're going to provide you with some information and opportunities to talk to some of us. Just as a little bit of background or context, as you know, I hope at this point, we are expecting a bumper crop of first-year students in the fall, a very large incoming class. And what that means, among many other things, is we need a lot of sections for next year of complex problems, since every student needs to take it ideally within their first year, certainly in their first 30 credits. So we're looking for in a ballpark of about 20 new sections across the academic year. So there's lots of room for new faces and new courses. So we hope that those of you who are thinking about proposing will do so. And you'll share whatever you learned today with your colleagues and get them to consider proposing as well. You'll learn more about what all that means and what the program is like in the proposal process in that portion, if that's what you're here for. And piggybacking on that, we had decided on a deadline for summer. We normally wait and see if we need a summer call. We do multiple calls across the academic year. We're going to have a deadline of June 9th for new proposals that potentially could run in the fall, definitely could run in the spring. As part of that proposal, you indicate your initial availability. But so if you're in the process of planning a proposal, a little less than a month from now, we'll be asking for those proposals so that the subcommittee can review them and hopefully bring you on board to our program. So that is the background. With that, I'm going to ask, we're pretty much going to divide into two groups. We figure there's the pre-proposal groups and the post-proposal groups. So if you are here to get some advice and help on potentially proposing, you'll stay here in this main room. And if you are past that point and you're interested in either developing a course in the first place or refreshing a course, we'll head into a breakout room and have a different conversation there. So unless there are any immediate questions that we can answer, we'll go ahead and split up. Okay, so join the room if you are interested in post approval advice, and stay here if you are not.
If you need assistance and you'd like to join the breakout room and are having a hard time, just let me know. Jill, okay, gotcha.
All right, it looks like we have mostly new folks here. So it's great to see you all. And I guess before we get started, I just wanted to get a sense of kind of who everyone is and where you're coming from. So if we can just go around and you can say your name and the department that you teach in. And if you already have an idea about what your complex problems seminar topic might be, we'd be happy to hear that as well. So I'll go ahead and start with Dan.
Unmute. Hi, Rebecca. I'm Dan Whitman. I did for 5 or 6 semesters, I did something called crisis management. And I'm here today mainly to listen. Thanks.
Great. Shada, or maybe Silvina's next.
Hello, I'm Silvina Guidoni. I'm an assistant professor in physics. I kind of have an idea, but I'm not sure. So I'm just completely new to this program. I would like to learn more about it, what is needed, what the requirements are, what the students are expecting from this. So that's why I'm here.
Wonderful. Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Resnick. I'm from graphic design, and I'm here for basically the same reason that Silvina is here. That I have kind of an idea, but I really, for the most part, just need more information, see whether or not my idea fits, and get a good idea about what are the requirements and how to make it what the students are expecting and what the program is trying to get out of it.
Awesome, thank you. Catherine? Catherine B. Not sure if she's there, so we'll go to Raphael.
Hi, good morning. I'm from the Department of World Languages and Cultures. And so I'm interested in this seminar, but I'm not sure. I have some ideas, but I don't have a definitive plans now. So I'd like to learn more. Thank you so much.
Great. And Catherine?
Oh, hi, I just unmuted. I'm still having problems with my video. My reason for being here is the same as the previous faculty have elucidated. I'm interested in learning more about the program for purposes in the future, perhaps.
Wonderful. Lori?
Hi, yeah, I'm an assistant professor. I'm in the Department of Neuroscience. Next year, I'm currently in psychology, and I'm here because I'm interested in proposing a complex problem seminar potentially for the spring 2022, potentially. So I have an idea, but I think I need to develop that more, and I am excited to learn a little bit more about the expectations and the structure of that program.
Wonderful. And Shizhong?
Hi, everyone. It's good to be last to be called because my reason is exactly the same as what previous people have to say. And I just want to learn how to design a CP course. I mean, I know my colleagues have proposed different kind of topics, and I just want to know what's required and what are the formats for the course, and what's the expectation from the instructor. And I know there's some kind of experiential exercise that we need to do, right? And I would like to learn from these and how we design that. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right. Well, it's really nice to meet everyone. I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. To get started, we'll go through a kind of brief overview of what complex problems is. We'll go through kind of step by step how the proposal process works and kind of tips for developing a proposal. And then I guess throughout the presentation, if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, and Diane and Richard and maybe Brad will help answer those. And then we'll also have time for discussion and questions at the end. So I'll go ahead and get started with the screen share. Oh, I have an interesting mode going on here. Okay. All right, can everyone see this? Can I get a verbal yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So like I said, we're going to start with a quick overview of what is complex problems. So on this slide here, we just have a list of a couple of the topics that we offer. We actually offer around 150 approved seminars at the moment, but not all of them are always active at the same time. So we're always looking for new topics, different angles on similar topics and things like that. So just a brief overview about what complex problems is. So this is a seminar course. It is for first-year students and students who are new to American University. And so we kind of call it the Introduction to Academic Inquiry at AU. It's a class about the way we think, the skills that we need to learn, the skills that students need to learn to be able to be successful in their entire academic career at AU. And so we also call it kind of the gateway to the AU core. It's a class that introduces academic inquiry and prepares students to be able to be successful later on in their habits of mind classes, in their DIV, in their more advanced academic work. So as the kind of basics, it is a 3-credit class. So it usually meets twice per week in the kind of standard schedule times. And they're small classes that have a maximum of 19 students in each section. In each class, we also have an undergraduate program leader. So the program leader is a student staff member. They're hired by the program to work with a specific faculty member and a specific class. And they really provide support for the students, especially as they're new to AU. They offer support about campus resources, about how to balance your academic life and your student life, or in your social life and things like that. They also help the students kind of navigate the relationship between them and the professor. So if they're nervous about being in a college class for the first time and they're not sure how to ask a faculty member for an extension or something like that, the program leader can kind of help them figure out how to navigate those conversations. And like I've mentioned, the faculty propose topics based on really specific areas of interest. So it could be their personal expertise, something that they've been studying for a long time. It could be a new research interest that you're hoping to explore more. It could be a passion project that kind of doesn't fit into the regular major classes that you're teaching within your department. So something that's a little more interdisciplinary or an idea that is sparking your interest as a faculty member is the kind of topic that we want to see in complex problems. And then I'm going to go back up to the second bullet point here, which says that these are first-year seminars with shared learning outcomes. So this is really the key to complex problems, is that we offer these 150 or more different topics that are really unique and interesting. But in every seminar, we're looking to kind of help the students learn some specific skills and learning outcomes. So every seminar has 13 learning outcomes that are set by the program. And you'll use your topic to help the students learn how to do those skills. And we'll go into detail about what each of those learning outcomes is a little bit later. Or right now. So the complex problems learning outcomes are kind of split into 5 categories. One of them is exploring diverse perspectives. There's communication, critical reading, reflection, and integrative learning. In the diverse perspectives learning outcomes, you actually have 4 specific learning outcomes, which are called complexity, multiple perspectives, awareness, and civility. And the idea about all of these is giving students the opportunity to look at a problem or question from all different angles, maybe from different disciplinary angles, maybe from diversity in terms of race, gender, or sexual identity, things like that. There's also a component of awareness, which is self-awareness of the biases that you might be coming in with about that problem, and why your culture or your upbringing might be leading you to explore the problem in one way, but maybe some other people have different ideas about how to solve or think about that problem. So that's kind of the gist of the diverse perspectives area, and it's probably really the heart of complex problems. The diverse perspectives learning outcomes are really what makes the seminar what am I trying to say? It allows the seminar to have a really wide range of ideas and conversations within it. So not trying to have a specific answer, like we're looking at this problem and this is how can this solve it, and that's the way to solve it. It's looking at all these different ways to approach something. We also have the learning outcomes of communication, critical reading, which are a little bit more standard, and they're about helping students learn to write or communicate to a specific audience, to integrate sources within their seminar or within their writing or work, and to organize something as they're trying to communicate an idea. Critical reading is about so we have summary, response, and conversation. So being able to summarize something that's complex that they're reading, maybe that's an academic article or a film or something like that, to respond to it based on their own thoughts and feelings, and then also to be able to put it in conversation with other perspectives on the topic. So there might be multiple texts, and putting them together and helping or working on sorry, I'm talking really fast, losing my place a little bit, but putting 2 texts together and thinking about how different authors or different writers are exploring the topic. In reflection, we have feedback and metacognition, which are really closely tied together. So the feedback learning outcome involves giving students opportunity to receive feedback and then incorporate it in later work. And then the metacognition learning outcome kind of takes that a step further and asks them to reflect on the feedback that they've been given, to reflect on the way that they decided to incorporate it or not incorporate it, and really think about their own thinking. And then in integrative learning, at least one of you talked about this in the introductions. So integrative learning is about connecting experiences with academic learning. So we ask that each seminar has some component of experiential learning that connects the seminar topic to kind of the greater outside world, whether that's professionals in the field or doing museum visits or things like that, that bring in a kind of experiential component to the seminar.
Hey, Becca, before you move on, there's a question in the chat that I think would be very helpful. Brad just posted the answer, but maybe you want to talk through how does each class need to touch all 13 learning outcomes?
Sure. Yeah. So like we said, there are 13 learning outcomes here, and it does seem like a lot. But yes, so every seminar should be exploring all 13 of these learning outcomes. But what's great about them is they actually overlap quite a bit. So you can imagine that if you're working on the critical reading learning outcome and students are asked to put texts in conversation with other texts, you're going to naturally also work on the multiple perspectives learning outcome and things like that. So different assignments can have multiple learning outcomes associated with them. And we'll also go through how in the proposal process, you can be thinking about these learning outcomes, and also later as you're working on creating your assignments, how to align the assignments to the learning outcomes. But yes, every seminar should be working on all of these skills. Thanks, Richard. So just a brief overview about Complex Problems faculty. So we do currently accept full-time faculty from any college or school to teach in the program. Currently, it is not open to adjunct faculty. The faculty who propose and get approved to teach should be able to commit to teach this seminar at least 3 times in 3 years. So that could be every fall semester for 3 years. It could be fall and spring, and you can actually teach more than that as well. So you can even offer 2 sections of your seminar during 1 semester. We actually have that happen pretty often. So the minimum is 3 times in 3 years, but you're welcome to teach it more frequently. We also will offer opportunities for you to meet and collaborate with other Complex Problems faculty. So throughout the year, we'll offer different discussion conversations, maybe something specific about the learning outcomes, or just a time to meet up and have lunch and talk about your topics. And we also, at the beginning of every semester, invite faculty to come together with their program leaders so that you can work with your student staff and faculty at the same time. And then we have ongoing pedagogical and logistical support from the Complex Problems faculty director and staff. So you'll hear from us a lot throughout the academic year. We send out various emails with kind of tips and tricks about things you might want to try in your seminar. We'll also offer kind of an introductory email for every semester with ideas about what might be going on at AU and how you can connect that with the seminar. So for instance, at the beginning of the fall, we always make sure that Complex Problems faculty are aware of the Writer as Witness event that the Writing Studies program puts on, because that's another first-year program. And so there might be ways to make connections. So we try to offer different types of support throughout the semester. All right, so before I go into proposal overview, I know that was a lot and I was kind of talking fast. So are there any questions before I move on?
Becca, there's a great question in the chat that asks whether CP courses, quote unquote, expire after their 3 years or whether they can be renewed or extended.
Sure, thank you. So we do have a renewal process at the end of 3 years, and that's mostly so that we can find out whether the faculty want to continue teaching the same topic. It's also an opportunity for the faculty to say, I want to teach the same topic, but I want to adjust it enough that I need to change the title of the seminar or change the course description. Or you could say, I want to continue teaching complex problems, but I actually need to propose a whole new course. I want to change directions. But in general, we allow faculty to continue on for 3 years, as long as there are no questions or concerns, especially with your availability with your department chair and scheduling availability. So that's something that we always check also at that point. Anything else?
There are a couple of other questions. I'm not sure if you'll get to them later or if you want to address them now. The first is, how is the undergraduate program leader paired with the CP course? And then the second question concerns scheduling and how that works.
Sure. So I think for both of those, we can address them at the end. I think that'll be easier. Yeah.
Kate also has a question. I don't know, Kate, I'm happy to read it, but you're also welcome to unmute and share your question as well.
Okay, hi. How distinct and unique does each course have to be? For example, because of the interdisciplinary nature and goals that you guys were explaining earlier, that there's another course that I saw on there that is very much in my specific and unique research field. However, it is from someone in a completely different program. So I didn't know whether or not for each course, you know, they're so unique from the perspective of the faculty member potentially that can two people teach like kind of the same section or sorry, the same or very similar courses? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can give you a couple of examples of topics that are like this. And I think the short answer is it's definitely fine to have a very, very similar topic, but taught by two different faculty members. But the first one I'm thinking of is we have two seminars. One is called Harsh Justice and one is called Death Penalty Perspectives. And they actually both explore the criminal justice system, whether the death penalty is a just punishment and things like that. So they're both really, really focused on that topic. Like, is the death penalty something that we want to continue allowing in the US? But Harsh Justice actually takes a really kind of personal route and reads poetry written by inmates and things like that. So there's a little bit of an artistic side, whereas Death Penalty Perspectives is a little more policy focused. So very similar course topics, but slightly different approaches. And actually, we have facilitated in the past for those two faculty to meet up and think about ways in which their courses might overlap. Maybe they can do a shared experiential learning experience together and things like that. So I would say the short answer is yes, that's definitely fine.
That's great, thank you.
Sure. All right, so with that, I'm gonna go into the proposal overview. This section, just as a kind of warning in advance, has a lot of words on the slides, but actually each section of it is going to be the specific language that comes out of the call for proposals. And then the next couple slides will be tips about how to approach that. So I'm not going to read out loud the call for proposals to you, but just so you have an idea of what section we're referring to once you open the call for proposals and are looking at that. So the call for proposals has 5 different sections in it. You'll have a cover page, a rationale, the learning outcomes, the course texts, and the co-curricular programs. And each of those sections has specific instructions for what we're looking for when you go to write your proposal. So the cover page is pretty simple. You'll send us your proposed seminar title, who you are, and the department you're coming from, which will be redacted during proposal review, but we do need to know that so that we can make sure all the approvals are in place. And then your expected teaching availability, which would be the semester that you would like to start teaching this seminar once approved. So you can make that really specific and say, like, I really want to teach this seminar in spring 2022, or you can say anytime, or actually I'm going to be on leave next year, but I would like to have this available for me the following year. So that just gives us an idea of when we might be able to schedule this. Probably the most important part of the cover page is that proposed seminar title. So some of you may know that the registrar's office has a limit on how long titles can be. So they can actually only be 30 characters or less. So the first piece of advice we have for your seminar title is to make it short but specific. So something that kind of is catchy, it lets the students know what the class is about, and it kind of balances interest and clarity. So it shouldn't be so broad that the class could kind of be about anything. So if you include a little bit of specificity that allows the students to understand what the class is when they go to click on it. I would say that most first-year students, especially since we are offering between 50 and 80 seminars every semester, they're probably not reading 50 to 80 paragraph long course descriptions. They're going to look at the title and see what interests them. So it's a really important part. At the same time, the title is flexible, and after the proposal is approved, we can tweak it and adjust it to make it work for both the registrar's office and the students. So in the rationale, you'll see it's kind of long instructions, but it's split into 3 parts. So part A, part B, and part C. In part A, you're going to describe exactly what is the complex problem or enduring question that you are exploring within this seminar. In part B, it'll be a couple of paragraphs where you really elaborate on why this is a complex topic, the different perspectives you'll be able to bring in, why it's an important topic to be exploring right now, and why it might interest first-year students. And then in part C, you'll also write a paragraph or so that kind of ties this topic to what complex problems is. So how will this begin to explore the inquiry-based methods? How will the seminar prepare students for their work across the AU core? So this rationale, I'll go into the tips section. You are directly addressing the complex problem subcommittee. So you're talking to your faculty colleagues about what your seminar is. So you can think of part A as the kind of elevator pitch, 1 or 2 sentences that really focus on the question or problem that your seminar is working on. We actually have an appendix in the call for proposals that help define what complex problems or enduring questions are. And then I also suggest that as you're moving through your proposal that you keep this 1 or 2 sentences like on hand as you're building your seminar. So you can kind of refer to what you were planning to do and make sure it's still in alignment, or if you're building your seminar and realizing that there's other things you want to bring into this complex problem, that you can actually add that back into the part A of your rationale. In part B and C, it's really about elaborating on your ideas, your vision for the seminar, why you're excited about it, why it's really important, your understanding of those basic elements of CP, so the inquiry-based learning, transferable skills for the first-year students, and then how those 2 things come together. So I would say the rationale is probably the longest part of the proposal. It's where you get to talk about all your different ideas and explore those in depth. In the learning outcomes section, so within the call for proposals, we do link to the learning outcomes. As I mentioned before, there are these specific learning outcomes under the 5 categories. And there's actually a sentence that explains what that learning outcome is for each of those. And those are on the Complex Problems website. They're published publicly there, so you can read each specific one and really understand what we're asking the students to do when we say awareness or communication and sources. And so some tips for the learning outcomes section of the proposal. We have 2 main goals here. One is that you show us that you understand what we mean by each of the learning outcomes. So like I said, I really recommend that you read those specific sentences on the website and understand exactly the skill that we're hoping the students will gain out of that learning outcome. And then you'll also want to show us how your seminar topic will give students room to enact those learning outcomes. So thinking about ideas for assignments and activities and how you would use those assignments and activities to enact different learning outcomes.
Excuse me, Becca, do you want me to hop in here? One of the things to think about, it seems like maybe a long list of learning outcomes, but some of those learning outcomes are kind of common to college courses in general. Like I'm thinking of communication and critical reading. And then some of the diverse perspectives, integrative learning, I would say, are really unique to complex problems. And then reflection involves metacognition, which is kind of aspirational, something that we hope to expose these students to kind of think at a higher level. So when you really look at them, a lot of it you're going to do anyway, and then some of it encourages you to do what complex problems is meant to do, and that's expose students to different perspectives, and then kind of elevate the metacognition and kind of bring them along to some higher level thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point, Diane, is that this is an introductory seminar. So we're not necessarily expecting the students to come out of this seminar as like an absolute expert in using multiple perspectives to explore a topic, but they should have learned how to do that or how to begin doing that when they go to work on other problems in their upper level classes. So yeah, it's a first year seminar. This is all kind of introductory work. So as you're writing your proposal, you have kind of two options of how you might address this learning outcomes section. There are those 5 broader areas or each of the specific learning outcomes, and you can kind of list each area or each learning outcome and write about how your seminar will work on that area or outcome. And then, as we've mentioned, the learning outcomes kind of overlap and intersect. So you can also include some notes about how your assignment will address multiple outcomes at the same time. We just need to be sure that you've understood and are planning to address all 13 of the learning outcomes. So that's why we generally recommend listing them either by the 5 areas or the specific outcomes to make sure you've kind of covered all your bases there. And then you can also start thinking about aligning your activities and assignments to the learning outcomes. So you can kind of rework the learning outcomes or incorporate the learning outcomes to your specific seminar content. So for example, we said feedback, students will complete their research project in stages and receive feedback from peers and instructor before turning in each section of the project. So it shows us how you would work on the feedback learning outcome with a specific assignment. You can also think about writing out the summary of what an assignment might be and which learning outcomes will be addressed within that assignment. So here we have a response paper where students will be asked to focus on a single text and in 300 words summarize the message and main point and respond in a way that shows an awareness of your own as well as the author's standpoint. And this type of assignment will address diverse perspectives in the complexity and awareness sections and critical reading in the summary and response. So you can think about how, as you're beginning to design assignments, you might incorporate multiple learning outcomes within them. The next section of the proposal is the course texts. So I'm just going to highlight the main point here, which is you can list 4 to 6 selected texts, and for each of them, we'd like to see what the text is, the title, author, and publication date, and a short description that summarizes what the text is, what maybe with the topic, and how it represents an important subject within your seminar, and then also an opportunity to use the methods and the learning outcomes. So I will go to the tips section. So some things to think about as you're curating your reading list is that the committee is looking for diversity of content, perspective, form, or author identities. So this is a great place to demonstrate the ways that students will be exposed to multiple perspectives on a topic. We're asking for 2 to 3 sentences that summarize what the reading is and why it's useful for the seminar. So with the learning outcomes or the course content. And then also you can keep in mind that this is not every reading that the students will be doing. We recognize that you have not developed the course in full yet. also that many of these topics are really timely and new publications might be coming out that you would want to include in your seminar, even from semester to semester. So you might switch up some of the readings from fall to spring or from fall 2020 to fall 2021. So this is an idea of the main text that would be used in the seminar, but it's certainly not every single thing they would be reading. We also want to avoid, though, a big laundry list of like every possible text they might read. We want to see really the specific like 4 to 6 readings or artworks or galleries or films that really represent what your seminar will be. For the co-curricular programs, again, this is a lot of instructions, but the co-curricular programs are what we consider the experiential learning part of the seminar. So they connect in-class intellectual work to the world beyond campus. They provide shared experiences for the students to build community, and they supplement the seminar requirements. So this is a really important point, that the co-curricular programs should not be entirely required experiences. Instead, they should enhance and make the seminar more exciting and interesting for students, but they should not be graded. And so some tips for this section is that you can list potential ideas. Again, since this is in the kind of development phase, you don't have to have a specific plan of on October 15th, we're going to visit this museum and do these specific galleries. Instead, you can say the name of the museum and some potential things that would connect to your seminar. Let's see. You can explain what the activity is and how the activity will connect to the seminar theme and the learning outcomes. So rather than just telling us we're going to do X, letting us know why you think that would be interesting for the students and how it would connect. Since our subcommittee is made of members from all different schools and colleges, it's just helpful to have like a really specific idea of what that connection is in case they're not familiar with the guest speaker or with the experience that you're considering. This is also a place where you can consider how your program leader will assist with co-curricular programming. And we can talk about that more in depth at the end, but the program leaders, one of their main roles is to assist with co-curricular programming and to help the students build community through these shared experiences. So we love to see that you're thinking about how your student will help out along the way. And then just keeping in mind, like I said before, that these activities are parallel to the course content rather than being the course content. So there are instances where an experiential learning activity could be a requirement for the course, but we also want to offer community building and connection to the seminar that doesn't necessarily directly affect a grade or assignment within the course. So I have some general proposal tips, and then we can talk about different questions, go into more depth about the program leaders and things like that. So as you're writing your proposal, we ask that you follow the directions carefully for each section. It gives us the chance to look at every proposal with equity, so they're all in the same format and things like that. It's just a little easier to complete those evaluations. And we actually, in the subcommittee, evaluate section by section. So we'll read the rationale and do an evaluation there, the learning outcomes, etc. So following those directions just makes it a little easier for us. Whenever possible, be specific with your examples. So this is where you can really tie in the text, maybe a specific assignment you want to try out or a co-curricular activity that brings together the theme and the learning outcomes. So talk about how each section, the learning outcomes, the course text connects back to that rationale that you've written. And then after you've written your full proposal, compare the sections for cohesion and consistency. So you may have written your complex problem and gotten really excited and then gone off and worked on the learning outcomes and the course texts. But when you were working on that, you might have started to explore different areas of the topic or things like that. So just making sure that you go back to that rationale section and see that all the areas of the course are addressed and tied together. So that all makes sense. And then, yeah, I guess that's our main general proposal tips. So just some ideas about things that we see often in proposals that lead us to ask for clarification or revisions on the proposal. Sometimes it's lack of clarity in the complex problems or enduring question. And actually what I would say here is that I think what I've been talking about a couple of times happens pretty frequently, that like the rest of the proposal begins to explore many, many different areas, but they're not necessarily articulated within that 1 to 2 sentences of what the complex problem is. So that's something, a connection that we're looking for within the proposal. Sometimes the proposals will be exclusive or focusing only on one discipline. So making sure that you're incorporating different disciplines and different perspectives on the topic. Insufficient engagement with the learning outcomes can come up. And this is usually if, really, if you have not had the chance to look at the website and really read all of those specific learning outcomes. So I really recommend that, that you do that before writing your learning outcome sections, so that you understand what we're looking for there. Binary thinking is another one that comes up in the proposals, which is instead of many multiple perspectives, we see like 2 ideas and one of the ideas is obviously the correct one. So thinking about how there are shades of gray, there are different ways to approach or solve a potential problem rather than coming at your idea with a clear understanding of what you want the students to think is correct. We really want this seminar to be a place for students to explore and come to their own conclusions about what may be a solution, or to leave the seminar with more questions than they have answers. The inappropriate level for first-year students. This doesn't come up too often, but sometimes we see a proposal that looks like it's really going to be a capstone class instead of a first-year seminar class. So thinking about the breadth versus the depth of the class. Sometimes it's better to go into, to think about one specific thing really deeply rather than to try to cover all the possibilities of a topic. And then a lack of diversity in the course texts or voices is also something that comes up. So those are things to keep in mind as you're going in to write your proposal. I'm going to pause here for any questions about those different sections of the proposal. Are we good? Okay.
I just, let me just, I wanted to say that in a lot of ways, it's a proposal, but at the same time, it's allowing faculty to begin to develop the course. So it's all of those elements that folks are being asked to address really lays the foundation for the course. So once it's approved and you go back to developing your syllabus, you kind of have all of those unique areas that are already, you've already begun to explain and articulate, and will hopefully provide that outline for your map for the course, your syllabus, and all of that. So hopefully this proposal process is helpful in the development of the course.
Thanks, Diane. I'm going to quickly go over the proposal review process. This is a pretty simple section, and then we will open for discussion. So like I said, we have a subcommittee who reviews proposals and votes on the approval, clarification, or revisions of these proposals. So this subcommittee includes representatives from each school. So either the associate dean participates or a faculty designee, usually someone who teaches complex problems already, will be on the committee. We have the complex problems faculty director, who is going to be Adam Tamashasky for the next couple years. He's starting June 1st. And then the staff members also sit in on the subcommittee. We are not voting members, only the faculty actually have votes, but we do sit in and offer our perspectives, especially considering the co-curricular programs and how the program leader will fit into the seminar. For the review process, like I said, we do redact identifying information. Then we give the proposals to the committee to review kind of on their own time. They do a feedback form by each proposal section. And then we all come together in a live meeting, sometimes in person, sometimes via Zoom, to discuss each proposal. We review the feedback that was submitted from the forums and also assess the proposal based on the expectations laid out in the call and by the Complex Problems program. And then the subcommittee votes on a response to the proposal. And so those potential responses are approval, which means your seminar is good to go and we're ready to move into that development phase of creating your syllabus, making sure that the title and the course description are good to go for the schedule of classes, that students can see your seminar and want to register for it. It's possible that you'll receive a clarification response, which usually means we have one or two questions just to make sure we understand a specific thing about the proposal. And you can answer those via email so that we can then go ahead and approve it. A minor revision means that the proposal is well on its way, but there might be something that just doesn't quite align with complex problems. And so we're going to ask you to actually refocus some sections and resubmit the proposal at the next call. And then a major revision typically means that the topic as it's proposed just doesn't really make sense for complex problems. And so we want to kind of rethink the way that it's being approached. In any of these situations, we really do want to help proposers move towards approval. So we try to offer feedback that helps rethink the proposal. And then we're also either subcommittee members, staff members, or the faculty director are always available to talk through these questions so that we can help shape your seminar and be ready for approval at the next round.
Becca, Lori has a question about the timeline for revisions. Would there be enough time to revise a proposal for spring 22 if it's submitted June 9th for the first time?
Sure, yeah, so the Complex Problems Committee actually reviews proposals multiple times each academic year. So we typically have deadlines for submission at the beginning of the fall semester, middle and end of fall semester, beginning of spring, and middle to end of spring. And then, like we said, this June 9th, we have a special call for proposals. So the short answer is yes, you can submit your revision for any of those deadlines. And since we're in a year where we really need a lot of new proposals and new courses on the books, we will most likely accept proposals whenever we can. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, I think. Hi, everyone. I know you've been listening to my voice go on and on for quite some time. So I wanted to open the floor for questions. Richard might want to jump in and talk a little bit more about the program leader role. I know that was one of the questions. So maybe we want to start with that and then we can keep discussing.
Yeah, thanks, Becca. So the program leader role, first I want to say that it is a non-traditional student leadership role in the sense that a lot of people try to equate it to teaching assistant, and that's really not what this role is. So we don't intend for this person to do things like grading. In fact, actually, they can't. but they should be able to help you facilitate discussions, facilitate those co-curricular activities that we talked about, and also really just serve as a resource and support to students, whether that's acclimating socially, academically, or connecting to campus resources. And so the way that we select this person is kind of a multi-tiered approach. The semester prior to you teaching, we'll actually reach out to you and ask you to nominate someone if you have someone in mind. A lot of our faculty don't actually teach undergraduate students or first-year students, and so they aren't super close with anyone they think would be a good fit for their role. And that's totally okay. So the next phase, we open it to open applications. Anyone that has sophomore standing or higher in the undergraduate population is allowed to apply for the position. Once they apply, we review the application. We do require that they have a complete application. And so that means that they actually do put an effort to the essay questions and that kind of stuff in the application. From time to time, some students perceive that if they were nominated, that means they automatically get the job. And that is not true. We actually do want to make sure that we're hiring people that are committed to the role and are really interested in what we're expecting out of the position. Once we review all applications, we offer interviews to the people who kind of meet our expectations for that application. Then they will participate in an interview process where there are 2 panel interviews. So they'll get about 3 to 4, sometimes 5 sets of eyes and ears on their interview and evaluate their fit for our program. At that point, then we begin matching folks. If your nominated student meets our expectations through the application and interview process, then it's most likely they'll be matched with you. If there's not a successful match or you don't have someone to nominate, then we look at those open applications, and actually on their application, the student will preference which sections they want to work with, which means that they have specific interest in working with you or they have specific interest in your topic. And then that's how we'll start facilitating the matches from there. If there's a course that gets scheduled late or something, then they weren't able to be on the application, we actually look at what the student preference, and we'll pull the student, look there, see what classes are similar. So for instance, Becca mentioned earlier that there is harsh justice and death penalty perspectives. Those are pretty similar topics. And so maybe death penalty perspectives got added late, but they had preference harsh justice. So maybe that's someone we would consider matching with death penalty perspectives. Also, there are some candidates or times where it's pretty late or it's a new course. We will actually sometimes pull the student's transcript to actually see what sort of course topics they've already taken, and so what kind of familiarity they have there. So pretty much it's starting with you and you offering any student that you think would be a good fit, the interview process, and then we do a matching process. And before we offer the position to a student, we will actually reach out to you and let you know who we want to match you with. Just so in case there's some reason that it wouldn't be a good match, you can let us know that and we'll go back and then suggest someone else. So we try pretty hard to make sure that, one, the student meets our expectations of the program, but also that it's a good fit for you and your course. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers the process of how we select our program leaders.
Yeah, thanks, Richard. And someone also asked if it's possible to have TAs as well. And so we actually will only have 1 student staff member in the class. So that would be the program leader, and every seminar has a program leader. Usually, like Richard said, they offer that kind of community and experiential support to the class. But some program leaders are either excited about the topic or just have a little more knowledge about the topic and can kind of help students with more TA-like duties, but they really should be mostly focused on the community building aspect of the seminar. So I think there were a couple questions about scheduling and kind of how we know where the CP courses are listed. So to start with scheduling, so basically the classes are scheduled by the Complex Problems team. So technically I'm the scheduler for the department. So I work with each department chair and each departmental scheduler to determine which faculty are available to teach in each semester. And then I create our complex problem schedule around their other teaching schedule. So it all kind of depends on the department, but some departments will set their days and times for all their faculty really early in the process, and I'll work around that. Or the opposite, will set your complex problems time and the department will set the rest of your teaching around it. So it just kind of depends on the timing there. Like I said, most of them do meet twice per week in the 1 hour and 15 minutes, but we do allow block classes as well. We're restricted to block classes during the kind of official teaching times. So those are the Wednesday daytime blocks or evening blocks during the week. So 5:30 to 8 p.m. At the moment, we don't offer any of the 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. blocks for first year students, just because we want to allow them to kind of participate in all the different campus events and resources that exist. So in terms of the schedule of classes and where to find the list of approved CP seminars, we do have a list of all the seminars that are currently approved and exist on the Complex Problems website. And we do try to keep that updated, but the website is not the most easy to update on a regular basis. So if you're looking for the seminars that are actually specifically offered in a semester, I definitely recommend the course catalog on Eagle Service, the schedule of classes. You can go into the course catalog and search Core 105, and you'll see all the sections that are currently being offered with their titles and course descriptions. Someone asks if it's possible to teach the complex problems courses remotely. So of course, this year is the first year that we've offered any online sections of complex problems, and all of them were online. I would say that in general, we will plan to offer classes in person, but any faculty with accommodations will of course be accommodated to teach online. I don't think we currently have a plan to offer any specific number of sections online per year or anything like that. But it's possible for that to come up in the future. And is it all right if we co-propose with 2 other faculty members and take turns to teach the course? Yeah, so that would be definitely possible. I would recommend working with them as you create the proposal. We have a couple seminars that are already designed that way. So we have a course called Constructions of the Self and Other, which talks about how you build your identity in person and on social media and things like that. And we have 2 professors who teach that class. So that's definitely an option. And if you have some faculty you want to work with, we can definitely offer the rotating faculty teaching the same topic. Question about the maximum, that 19 is the maximum. Is there a minimum enrollment? Yes, we have a minimum enrollment of 12 students to run a complex problem seminar. We almost never have an issue where we need to cancel sections. Like we mentioned at the beginning, we have a lot of first year students coming into AU next year. And so we're definitely going to be running every section that we can. We did this past year end up reducing capacities for some classes, and we've also ended up increasing capacities for select classes, usually no more than 1 or 2 students, but sometimes just to accommodate and make sure that every student is able to complete the requirement in time. We do need to make those little adjustments, but it's pretty rare that a seminar doesn't meet the minimum enrollment. Any other questions? I know we gave a lot of information today, so if you need to take time to process it, and if you have other questions, we're definitely always available by email or to set up a quick one-on-one on Zoom to talk through things. But I'd love to hear if anyone has kind of initial thoughts about whether they're excited about proposing, if their topic is kind of what they still want to do, and things like that.
A quick question for me. I still wasn't, I didn't understand if it is preferred to do in person, or it has to, or it can be remotely, or there is no preference, or
Yeah, so I would say there's a preference to teach in person, but it's
Okay.
not,
required.
yeah, we want to
Okay.
make sure that the first year students are having an equitable experience. So we don't want to have a bunch of classes online, or have, you know, they might end up with like their complex problem seminar online and their writing studies online and things like that. So we're trying to have as much in-person experience as we can. But that being said, we will accommodate any faculty accommodations as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts, questions, concerns?
I have a question for Rebecca. You mentioned all these learning outcomes. I think they're very helpful. I'm just wondering if there are any learning outcomes that are specific for first-year student, and also, is there any learning outcome that is related to AU's location in Washington, D.C. capital? Thank you.
Sure. So we've definitely designed these learning outcomes in kind of conjunction with the rest of the AU core first year classes. So these are all the classes that students are required to take in the first year. It includes complex problems, AUX 1 and 2, their writing studies, and their quantitative reasoning. And so the complex problems learning outcomes are kind of specific to the first year seminar, and then also in some ways connected to those other classes to create this well-rounded first year experience. And then in terms of the location in Washington, D.C., we don't have we don't name Washington, D.C. within the learning outcomes, but the last one, which is integrative learning, the experiential learning component, the co-curricular programs, that's a place where you can really use Washington, D.C. to your advantage. And some classes, I mean, almost all classes do something that connects really specifically to Washington, D.C. So whether that's the Smithsonian museums, or doing neighborhood walking tours, or connecting with nonprofits or government institutions, depending on who you know and who you want to connect the students with, those are definitely components that we like to bring into all of the seminars.
Thank you, Rebecca. I have one more question. You mentioned all these co-curriculum activities. If some of these activities generate some costs, how can we deal with it?
Yeah, great question. So each seminar actually has a budget to help support the co-curricular programs. The budgets are not huge. It's about $200 per seminar per semester, but that can help offset the cost of either admission or tickets to something, or you can use those $200 to pay an honorarium to a guest speaker and things like that. And then another option is if, for example, seeing a film is a requirement of the course, you can actually list that as one of the kind of textbooks that students are going to be required to purchase in the semester. So you might say like required movie tickets, $15 on your syllabus, so that students are aware that they might need to include that in their budgeting for textbook purchasing. So it kind of depends on the situation. That's more rare, but it is possible. And then I saw a question about the UPass. So next year we are bringing back the UPass, so students will have that available to them. So transportation to and from activities should, for the most part, be free. That they can take the metro, take a bus downtown or to different areas of the DC metro area. Just as a note, in general, we will not pay for something like Uber or Lyft for students to get to a certain place unless there's an emergency. If there is some kind of emergency, then we will certainly look at that and try to reimburse students for those costs. But in general, they should be using their UPass and that free transportation that they get from it. So can or should the field trips or co-curricular programs occur during the scheduled class time? They definitely can, but it's not necessarily required. So sometimes an event might be happening on like a Thursday evening and you guys have the Tuesday, Friday. So it can definitely happen outside of class time. We like the program leader to be present and to help the students or help like kind of guide the student discussion around what the event might be. The professor can be present or can choose to let the program leader run that activity. So that's kind of up to you or depending on the nature of the activity.
Yep. Can I ask one more question? You mentioned at the beginning that these courses are gateway to AU core courses. So I'm just wondering, are there cases like that? You know, some of these seminars, they cover the same topic or similar topics that are in some AU core courses. I mean, what I mean is that for this seminar, probably it's kind of entry level inquiry into these courses, and then in the future, for like more advanced students, we can offer AU core course that cover more or less similar topic, but in a more profound way.
Yeah, I think it's possible. So I think what's key about that is in the complex problem seminar, they're going to be doing this introductory work on the learning outcomes that we have laid out. And then later on in something like a habit of mind, if they're doing a creative aesthetic inquiry habit of mind and it has some tie to a complex problem seminar topic, that is, I think, okay, but within that habit, they'll be working on different specific learning outcomes. And so they should still be working on skills that are more advanced and more about ways of thinking in that creative aesthetic inquiry mode, as opposed to the complex problems, which is a little bit more broad, looking at different learning outcomes. So that's going to be like the biggest profound difference between a CP seminar or a habit of mind that have a similar topic.
I have a quick question. I have the impression that there are no exams in these seminar courses. Is that right?
Not necessarily. We do have some faculty who use exams as part of their pedagogy in complex problems. In general, the class, we like to move towards a more discussion and inquiry-based class. So there's often kind of response papers or kind of smaller assignments throughout the semester instead of like one large final exam. But there are definitely faculty who use exams as part of their teaching. So it kind of depends on the topic and what makes sense for that class. Richard, did you want to chime in?
Yeah, I just wanted to hop in and specifically just state like exams are fine, but it's really those high stakes assignments that we're just trying to avoid. So you don't want to have something that's like 30% of the grade on one assignment. So if that's what you're intending when you say exams, that's not what we want. But if you have, a midterm and a final and together, that's like a portion of it, that's totally appropriate. Just staying away from like one assignment being such a dramatic part of the grade is really the concern.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, and I would add to that, thanks Richard, that like if you're doing a final project for the seminar, then you can actually scaffold that project and have like small assignments that are graded and lead up to that kind of culminating project. But that helps also reduce just having like one final project. The grade you get on that is basically the grade for the class. Instead, you have different smaller graded assignments throughout the semester that help lead the students to that work. Lindsay, how much time do we have? Do we go until?
We go until 10:45.
10:45? Okay. Well, I'm happy to stick around and talk about specific topics or any other questions you all might have. But I think that pretty much concludes the main portion of the session for us. So yeah, I guess.
Oh, quick question. Yes, do these classes go through the usual SET surveys from students and they count for teaching like a normal class? It's like a normal class, I would say, in that sense.
Yes, so the classes do have the SETs, and we actually have a couple extra questions on the SET for the complex problems classes that asks about, I had the chance to work on diverse perspectives, communication, critical reading, those specific learning outcomes within the class. In terms of them counting towards the typical annual review, it kind of depends on the department. Some departments will include the core classes and some will not. So you just have to check with your department chair or whoever is working on those faculty reappointment discussions to see how that fits in for you.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca, Richard, Diane, everybody. Thank you for this session. We'll keep this session open in case people want to stay and ask further questions. We did drop an evaluation link in the chat. If you could just take 2 minutes and fill that out, we would really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us.
Hey, Becca, I had a question.
Hey, Catherine.